India is on a mission against foreign meddling. A clean-up drive is underway. NGOs and their foreign funds are under the lens, and the latest one to face scrutiny is Oxfam. It is a British charity. India's Home Ministry has recommended an inquiry against Oxfam. On what grounds? On alleged violation of foreign funding rules. The Foreign Ministry, in fact, has issued a statement. It explains the case against Oxfam, and this is what it says. The MHA found that Oxfam India continued to transfer foreign contributions to various entities even after coming into force of the FCRA 2020, which prohibits such transfers. The amendment came into force on September 29, 2020, and Oxfam India transferred funds to other NGOs, violating provisions of the FCRA 2010. What is the FCRA? It stands for the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. It was introduced during the emergency in 1976. The law regulates foreign funding to NGOs in India, and it's the same law that is being used in the case against Oxfam. The law clearly spells out the rules. Broadly, it requires every NGO to be registered under the Act. The ones that register get an FCRA license, and they cannot raise foreign funding without these licenses. Meaning, an NGO in India must have an FCRA license to get money from outside the country. That is the law. An NGO must open a bank account to get foreign donations. This account should be opened at the State Bank of India, and the money in this account can be used by the NGO anywhere, ideally for the purpose it is meant for. All such NGOs must file annual returns, and they cannot transfer donations to another NGO. And I repeat, this is the law of the land. Now, India says Oxfam is in violation of this law. This comes from India's Home Ministry. It says Oxfam was transferring foreign contributions to other entities. And where was this money going? Apparently to a think tank. Indian officials say Oxfam routed funds to the Center for Policy Research, or CPR. Apparently, this was in the form of commissions, which begs the question, why was an NGO that claims to be fighting global inequality funding a think tank? The Center for Policy Research itself is facing scrutiny. In the month of March, its license was suspended. We're talking about the think tank's FCRA license. It was suspended for 180 days, again over alleged violations of funding laws. And these two cases appear to be connected. In 2022, both organizations faced scrutiny by India's Income Tax Department. Tax officials showed up at their offices and they conducted surveys. And now the CBI will look into Oxfam's activities. The CBI is the Central Bureau of Investigation. It is India's premier investigating agency. And the Union Home Ministry has recommended this probe. For some reason, Oxfam keeps running into trouble with Indian authorities. In 2021, the NGO's foreign funding was blocked. The Home Ministry refused to renew Oxfam's license. Again, this was over quote-unquote adverse inputs. After an audit of the NGO's books of accounts, ultimately, India decided to not renew Oxfam's licenses. And what does Oxfam say in its defense? It has approached the Delhi High Court to get its license back. It says it is cooperating with all government agencies. And here's something else you should know. Between 2018 and 2022, India has cancelled close to 2,000 FCRA registrations. And in 2022, almost 6,000 NGOs lost their licenses in India, their registrations seized. The NGOs either did not apply for renewal, or the Home Ministry refused to sanction their applications. Oxfam was on that list. Now, critics of the government say that these NGOs are being targeted without cause. But the fact is that NGOs are entitled to legal remedies if they think they've been wronged. And they cannot operate in India without following the law of the land and pushing back against legal scrutiny. Also, it's no secret that NGOs tend to be used as instruments of foreign policy. They function as information providers, in some cases lobby groups and agenda setters. And no one does it better than the West. I'll give you some examples. In the name of aid, the US government was sponsoring efforts to spur regime change in Cuba. The cash assistance was channeled through the National Endowment for Democracy. Through this organization, tens of thousands of dollars ended up in the hands of opposition figures in Cuba, human rights activists, political prisoners, and their families. NGOs were used as weapons in the hands of spies too. This happened in Pakistan when the US was on a hunt for Osama bin Laden. US intelligence went to great lengths to get a terrorist, and the CIA ran a phony vaccination program. They co-opted a doctor linked to the NGO Save the Children. He tried to collect DNA samples from Osama bin Laden's compound. The plan did not work. After Osama bin Laden's death, Pakistan asked Save the Children to leave the country. There are many more such examples, but you get the point. And we're not suggesting that Oxfam is involved in any such activities. The limited point here is that NGOs have an important role to play. They're open to being misused by foreign powers too, and hence the need for scrutiny.